So we are live now. I'm going to double check this because I haven't gone live in a year and a half. So let me make sure this has gone through before we start chatting. Or if my 7:15 thing still. Okay, we are live. Okay, great. I'm going to keep the chat open then so I can see any questions people may drop. And all right, great. So I think what I'll do is it'll take some time for this to show up on people's feed for them to hop in, but I think I'll just get started right away. They can just rewind, replay if they need to. All right, so Chris, I'm so glad you're here. So we've got Professor Chris Hurren. He is the chief scientist behind Motocap, which is an independent research program that crash test gear all across the board. So I've been getting a lot of questions since I've been sharing research from Motocap that I've been learning from Chris and the researchers on his team. And I really just I just get my information from Chris. So rather have the source here with us. So any questions that you all have from not just armor, so far I've just done a video on armor, but I plan to do more. Thanks to Chris and the researchers that I'm able to do that because of them. So yeah, we'll get started with that. Hello, we already see some in here. Hi, pocket size painter, just for another soul. Great, I'm so glad you guys are here. Okay, Chris, so I'll get started with you then. Is there anything I missed as far as your introduction? Anything else you want to share about you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely perfect, Caroline, and thank you for having me along today.
Yes.
Whether it's morning, evening, or night, wherever you are, it's my first ever live stream, so this is quite exciting. So
okay, great. Well, you'll do great because whenever I've talked to Chris, like obviously I cut things and edit things and shorten things for YouTube, but I'm just like, man, if y'all could just hear him talk, like he'll just explain so much, and I'm like, there's just so much gold in here that I just can't put it in a whole YouTube video. So I'm excited to have you live, where we can just let you talk unedited and let it go. Okay, so I'll start with first question. What would you say is the biggest problem with riding gear today, and what are you and your team at Motocap doing against that?
So one of the biggest problems I see is reductions in protection levels. So if we look at it, we monitor all of the test results for gear, and we've got 8.5 years of test results from the Motocap program. And what really worries us at the moment is the reduction in protection levels of some gear that's out there in the market. And we typically see somewhere between 30 to 40% of gear getting 1 star or less on the Motocap program. And this for us is really concerning because this is gear that people are going out and spending money on that's probably going to do very little or nothing in a crash. And so this is probably the most worrying bit for me, because if you've got someone that's physically gone out and laid down their cash buying something that they believe is going to protect them, and then it's not going to do something, that's not good. And I really like the comment you made when you were visiting here, companies that are selling the concept of protection rather than actually selling protection. And that concerns me a lot. And it's not helped at the moment by standards. So if we look, there is only one standard in the world, which is the European standard. And the abrasion protection levels for A and AA are set very low on that standard. And so that unfortunately, I think, is encouraging this downward trend of protection levels. Because if we look at a piece of ordinary Levi 501's denim jeans will pass AA abrasion under the European standard. And so this means that manufacturers don't have to put as much protection in to pass, and protection tends to be expensive. So you can improve your margins by reducing some of the protection level. So it's an ongoing concern.
Yeah, I was glad to learn from you all. Like, I had no idea about this, but I just assumed that if I'm buying riding pants, that they're abrasion resistance. And I thought that my pants that I crashed in, for instance, did great because I don't know, I just assumed they did great. But it wasn't until I started talking to you all that I learned that if it's sold in the US, it's just not held to any standards. So I essentially just had cotton jeans with pockets for armor in them. There was no abrasion resistance on it at all. And that would be illegal to sell in Europe, but not in US.
Well, no, it wouldn't be illegal to sell in the US. Sorry, in Europe. If it was
Okay.
certified to
Mm-hmm.
A or double A,
Mm-hmm.
you would still be allowed to sell it. And I would think that you would find that the product you were wearing at the time of your crash would actually pass A. I believe
Mm-hmm.
it does pass A under the certification. It may even pass double A under that certification. And that's the bit that concerns me the most.
Mm-hmm.
When we test gear, we see a really good spread of protection levels in gear. So we see lightweight, comfortable gear that can get 4 and 5 stars on the Motocap program. But then we also see lightweight and comfortable gear that gets half a star on the Motocap program. And so what really concerns me is when gear's being sold as being certified to a particular standard, but it doesn't have any protection. And we see that we come to riding jeans. I've been testing riding jeans now for even longer than the Motocap program, and I will see that what's being sold as a protective denim jean. We see abrasion times on our Cambridge abrasion machine that we use from 0.2 of a second to 16 seconds. That's the spread of abrasion protection we see in protective jeans or protective pants. So you definitely can achieve really high abrasion times, but it's impossible to differentiate unless you've got an abrasion tester or something like the Motocap program to tell you what's good and what's not good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And for those of you asking questions in the comments, I'm taking screenshots. I don't know if you can hear my computer capturing that. I'm taking screenshots, so I'll make sure to get to your questions towards the end. And just quickly, I have it. Oh, you know what? I didn't pin it. That's why. I'm gonna pin this in the chat. The links to Motocap. So that's where you can see all this gear crash tested that Chris and the researchers are doing. And if you don't want to dig through all of that yourself, I'm working on compiling a list of the top categories in each that they found, but also that I could find purchased online. I had some
But
questions for you, Chris, as I compile that. So if you want to know when
but
it's ready, just see the link.
But what I will say though, it's not all about 5 stars. So
Okay.
the way that we work with the Motocap program, we have a recommendation that if you're going to be riding in an urban environment where the road surface is going to be predominantly asphalt or in some cases concrete, the abrasion resistance of that, the abrasion damage that will occur in a crash is much reduced. And so we say to people, if you're going to ride around in an urban environment, 2 stars or better in your clothing. If you're going to go out
2
into a
stars.
rural environment and you're going to get out on the country roads, then it's 3 stars or better. And so
Oh,
it's
wow.
not all about 5 stars. Some people
Okay.
will want 5 stars because some people will want to wear racing leathers every time they hop on a motorcycle. But
Mm-hmm.
some people don't want to have that level of restriction, and protection is restriction. So you can get reasonably good protection, but generally that comes with some negatives, and that might be thermal discomfort. It may be the stiffness of the garment. It may be the weight of the garment. And so what I say to all riders is any gear is better than no gear. And you're better to have a 3-star garment that you wear every time that you hop on the motorbike than to have a 5-star garment that lives in the cupboard or in the wardrobe that you only pull out for those particular rides. Because protection on riding is about having that protection every time you hop on a motorbike. So you've got to have something that looks good, it's got to feel right, it's got to be comfortable, and it's got to suit your motorbike. I really want to capture one day someone in full race leathers sitting on a scooter, because you'd never do it. So if you're riding a cafe racer, then you probably want to be in good protective denim pants and a really cool leather jacket. If you're riding a a scooter around town, you probably want to be in a more urban style puffer jacket or maybe chino pants. The style of what you're riding in is set a bit by what your personal preference is, but also the bike you're on. It's then being able to look at the gear and say, okay, I'm riding around town. Yeah, that one's 2 stars. It might be better. I might prefer 3 stars, but for the type of riding I do, 2 would be okay. And we base that all on what we see with protection. So to get 2 stars, a garment's got to have very good armor, and it's got to have good seam strength, and it doesn't have to have as good abrasion resistance. To get 3 stars, it's got to have good armor, good seam strength, but it also must have some abrasion resistance to get that 3 stars. Because when we go out on the open road, speeds go up, but we tend to find top dressed or chip seal surfaces, and they're more aggressive to clothing than what asphalt and concrete are.
Out on the country roads. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so 3 stars, good enough for the country roads. 2 stars, good enough for in town. Is that right? Is that kind of what I'm
Yep.
summary?
Yep.
Okay.
2 stars around town. Two stars are better around town. 3 stars are better out in the open road. Now, some people will want to wear 5 stars because they have this worry and they want to have that level of protection. But to me, having a really good 3 or 4 star garment that's really comfortable that you're going to wear every time you hop on a motorbike is far better than having that 5 star garment that you might say, oh, I'm going to go for a ride on the tail of the dragon. I'll drag out the 5 stars for today, but I'll just wear normal clothing every other day. You're better to have that same level of protection all the time.
Okay. And then another question I had, so just digging through the Motocap site, like one example I saw was the best performing helmet you have on there right now, the Shoei X SPR Pro. I was having trouble finding it online and then found that it's sold under a different name for the US, the Shoei X15. So would it be correct? Like, why are they calling it a different name for US? Like, is it not as safe? Is it not like
No idea. It's a really interesting one. I've not come across that with garments typically. So what we find so my predominant expertise is in jackets, pants, and gloves. I have a degree of expertise in helmets, but the helmet testing is done by a separate laboratory. I can talk a little bit about it, but it's not my prime expertise. I'm
Okay.
unsure why they would call them a different make and model. A different model in a different country. It's very unusual to find that with jackets, pants, or gloves.
Okay. So stand by on that question for helmets because I am going to do another follow-up helmet video. The first one, there were still a lot of questions brought up and some good points. So I'll be doing a follow-up for it. But okay, so back on armor, textiles, and like jackets, pants, gloves. Would you say, is there any kind of what are the requirements for your testing products? Like what is the Motocap standard when you test products?
So Motocap is a star rating system that is paid for by Australian and New Zealand governments. So the requirement that we have at the moment for us to test something for Motocap is it must appear in a store in Australia or New Zealand. And then the second that it appears in one or more stores in Australia and New Zealand, we will endeavour to buy at least 10% of that product a year. Or 10% of that manufacturer a year. And this is the reason why American brands that are not available in Australia don't appear on the website. And the same for brands in the UK. I'll use an example. Actually, I can't think of the name of the brand at the moment. There's several motorcycle pants in the UK that don't appear. An example is Adventure Spec. Adventure Spec is an off-road clothing company that is based out of Europe. They don't appear on Motocap because you cannot buy Adventure Spec gear in Australia, where Climb is featured on the Motocap website because Climb is available in multiple stores in Australia. So it just depends. So the reason that's the case is the Australian government's paying for the program, so they want to see representation of the clothing that Australian and New Zealand riders are going to be wearing.
Okay. Okay, great. And next question. As far as, so I think it's really interesting to talk about um how you choose products to be tested. So the specific things
Yeah,
you
definitely.
about
So,
that.
so we use a random system. We have uh, on the Motocap website under reports, there's a protocol that shows you how we actually select in the documents. There's actually a document that shows all of the testing we do, how we test, how we take samples from a garment, and so forth. In there is also our sampling procedure for how we randomly select garments within a store. And so we have an app. So we know from that app before we go out to a store that we will need to buy 2 Dionysi textile jackets, 3 Alpine Stars textile jackets, 1 Segura, 1 Ixon, for instance. So the person going out to do the purchasing will go to a store where they know Alpine Stars is sold. When they go into the store, they'll press a button on the app and it will give them 3 options of the garments that they could select. They'll look for those. The one that is first on the list, if they find that, then they will purchase that. If that's not available, they go to the next one down. If that's not available, they go to the next one down. Now, there is a preference that they're getting the newest gear that's hanging on the shelf. So if they find the gear that is listed in that app and it's on the remainder shelf or it's on the clearance shelf, they're not to buy it. And this way, we're not testing something that's going out of sale, but we're very much aiming to buy the newest gear as it's just appearing in the stores so that we've got the longest period of time. But in that, we do also have a slight problem in that if we buy a particular garment in Australia that's come in from somewhere like Europe or America, quite often the people bringing that garment in bring that garment, they specify that garment 2 years in advance. So they go to the company that's selling that garment and they say, yes, we want 800 units of that ride knit leather jacket. They bring it in, we go in, we buy one in store and we bring it back and we rate it. It gets 4 or 5 stars and riders go, yep, that's what we want. Once those 800 units are sold out, which can happen in 3 or 4 weeks after we give it a good rating, then it's quite often that company's unable to bring any more of them into Australia because they were made 2 years earlier and we're just getting the tail end of what's been sold in Europe or America. So we have some difficulty because of our popularity where we can actually clear the racks of a particular make and model of gear because it scores well on Motocap. And
Well, that's
then we
great.
get feedback from riders saying they can't get it, and that's really frustrating for us.
Oh no. Yeah, I actually just got an email recently from a company about that. He was like, "Thanks, I've just been doodled," and I was like, it was a pant company. I hadn't talked about textiles yet, but I was like, "Great, I haven't touched textiles yet. That means people are looking at Motocap and deciding for themselves, which is what I was hoping for." Yeah, but what I think is really good to know for people to know about Motocap is that all the gear they test, they buy themselves, just like we would. So they're not going to a manufacturer and saying, "Hey, we want to test your gear," or a manufacturer saying, "Hey, test our gear," and giving them something that might be different than what you buy. It's
So
they.
I'm going to just do the majority of our gear that's on the website is purchased in store. So one garment is purchased in store and then a second garment is purchased online. And with gloves, we actually purchase 1 pair of gloves in store and 2 online. A manufacturer can commission a rating on the Motocap program, but it's not that they then provide the 3 garments or so forth. What they actually have to do is they need to provide us with a location where one of our people can go out and there is a representative number of garments to what they would be selling for that particular product. So if it's a little company that might have 100 units of a particular product, we would expect to find boxes of about 100 garments for us to go through and say, okay, we'll take that one, and that one.
Mhm.
If it's a big company where they would typically do 1,000 unit run or a 2,000 unit run, then we would expect a larger proportion of garments that we can then go through and say, yep, we'll have one of those, one of those, one of those. And we
Mhm.
have that ability there so that a manufacturer could star rate something before it appears in a store. However, once they start that rating path, they can't stop it. So if they ask us to come out and to rate a garment and we come out and we buy it, or we come out and we select it from their boxes and we bring it back and it gets 1 star, it's going up on the website. They can't actually say, no, oh, gee, it's got 1 star. We don't want it to go up.
Mhm.
So we remain in control when we're doing those commission ratings. And there is a requirement for them that if something was to be found to have changed from what we selected and what they're actually selling, that they'd have to do a recall on that. And that's part of the requirements for that commission rating as well.
Mhm. Okay. Um, and I want to, we got a lot of questions that I've got gathered from the chat, so I want to start hitting
Yeah.
those. DCX plant said spotting fakes is hard. So do you have kind of like just a quick summary? I know in our armor video, we showed the exact label you're looking for to make sure your armor is real and not fake. Do you have just a quick thing to look for in pants, gloves, jackets, just to make sure that it's quality if it's not on the Motocap website, for instance?
So my biggest recommendation is don't go and buy a piece of clothing that's advertised to you on social media.
Mm,
So
mm,
if it's not in a physical store somewhere,
mhm,
it's possible or more likely that it's going to not be made as well as a product that you'll get from a physical store.
mm,
When we do testing, even with smaller brands, some smaller brands will have some really good products, but they are more often, a smaller brand can also have lower quality products as well. They tend to pivot a lot quicker when we talk to them. They tend to improve their product a lot quicker than what a bigger store will. But it tends to be the little stores, especially ones that are importing garments from overseas, are more likely to have something that's not going to be quite as protective as what you might get from a bigger brand.
okay.
But in saying that, you've also got to remember that big brands will have a very big spread of product over their range. So an example, again, I'll use Alpine Stars as an example. They've got 5-star jackets, um, but they also have half-star jackets.
Mm,
And this is because they're a very big brand, and so they have different price points, and so they have different levels of protection depending on what they're selling.
okay. Yeah, I really wanted people to know that too. Like it's not like it's not enough to just go, oh, this one brand will always do good product, because sometimes they have some that don't perform as well.
And I'll reiterate that something that's being advertised to you on social media,
Mhm.
to me, is a red flag. Now,
Mm,
I get advertised stuff on social media that is a physical store. That doesn't worry me as much. But when I get an advertisement from a brand that I've not heard of that product before, uh, I'm very, very skeptical.
mhm.
And we mentioned one brand in your video, but there's one that we're doing at the moment that says that it's this highly protective motorcycle pant. And when we got them in, they were hiking pants. They didn't even have pockets for the armor that come with them.
Oh
So
my God.
it's really, really, really thin fabric that would do absolutely nothing. And so the essentially my warning is, because we've just finished buying a whole lot of gear from Temu,
Mhm,
eBay, Amazon, and from stuff that had been advertised to myself and other writers on Facebook. And whilst there is 1 or 2 winners out of the 36 garments that we've purchased,
mhm,
there is 30 of them that are absolute rubbish and would
mm,
provide little or no protection in a crash.
mhm,
So my word of advice is, if it's coming to you on a social media platform or from a low cost company, then it's probably going to have very little protection.
mhm. Okay. Um, so I hope that answers a few questions kind of I think that answers a few questions. Seize the Day, you asked if you already touched on this, what brand of riding pants do you recommend? And then we also had someone ask, is it best to just default to a well-known brand of D3O? And hopefully that, Chris, that answered the question, which is it's not always one brand, because sometimes they may make things and they may have a 5-star product, but they may also have a 1-star product, and they may have a very reputable name. So it's good to check. But again, I will be compiling a list, so if you don't want to do all the obsessive digging on a Motocap like I have, and yeah, if you don't feel like doing that, I'll put a concise list together.
And a question we get asked, and we've been asked once or twice, is with armor, and we had one not that long ago. We see armor that Motocap has tested that doesn't meet the certification levels to what it has been sold at. And so again, it's not very common, but we do occasionally see it. And riders that are deep diving, like what you've been doing, Caroline, will find this, and they will email us or send us a message and say, this particular protector doesn't appear to meet C level 1. Is that correct? The bigger brands tend to have quality control testing. So if you look at someone like D3O, they have an impact tester that they own in their own laboratory, and every product that comes in, every new batch that's manufactured gets impact tested. You go to some of the smaller products or some of the low price products, they're not being quality control tested. And so whilst they might have a really, really good protective armor, if they have someone that mixes the batch of polymer wrong, it will result in a lower protection level. And so I'll use an example. This particular armor here is a level 2 armor, and when made properly, this is really, really protective. But I've also seen this same armor with all its level 2 stamps on it and everything get less than level 1 because someone mixed the formulation wrong.
Oh no.
And that company, that says to me that they don't do any quality control testing, batch to batch quality control testing on their product. So they just, that's got out the door, it's got into people's products. And so that's always a worry. So looking for a company that has a bigger brand in that aspect is more likely to do quality control testing.
Okay. Okay. And the next hobby asked, my understanding is that we might be able to separately upgrade our padding inserts, like our armor, but that abrasions resistance is always set by garnet textile, correct?
Yeah, so when you buy the garment, what its abrasion resistance is what it is. You can improve abrasion resistance with layering. So an example is if you've got a pair of protective textile pants that you've just bought and they get 1 star and you go, oh, I'm a little bit glitched to whether I should wear them or not, wearing a pair of denim jeans under them would bring them up well above the 2-star mark. So it's layering. If the easiest example I've got is 1 pair of denim jeans or 1 layer of denim will typically get around 0.5 to 0.6 of a second of abrasion time on our test machine. 2 layers will get nearly 2 seconds. So the second you put a second layer there, you get improved abrasion protection. It's not always comfortable to do that, but it can be a way of improving protection is by layering up what you have underneath. I always look, when I'm looking at a garment, I'll look at its abrasion resistance and I'll look at its seam strength, because they're not something that you can change. And if a garment's got 10 out of 10 for seam strength, which is very common, and it's got, say, 5 out of 10 for abrasion, by putting good armor into that, you could quickly end up with a 4-star garment.
Okay. Great. So you can improve your own garments at home if you need to in a pinch with some Frankensteining and a good armor here, maybe another layer here, maybe adding some Kevlar lined leggings under some regular jeans if that's all you have. Is that right?
Yep. So you can get undergarments that can be worn underneath that will help to boost it up. So using a couple of examples, Pando Moto and Nox both make an undergarment that's designed that holds armor in it that can be worn underneath normal clothing. So if you put that in underneath your riding pants, for instance, that would significantly boost up the protection levels of what you're riding in. So you could have that for those days where you're going out on the open road for your around town gear, and then you have your around town gear for when you're going around town that has that little bit less abrasion protection where you don't need quite as much because of the road surfaces.
Okay. Oakland Guitar says, name names. We are trying not to get sued, Oakland Guitar, because we could get sued, get a cease and desist, and yeah, ideally that'd be great to just tell you the name so you guys could avoid it. But we could be potentially stopped from telling you anything if we tell you the specifics.
It's easy. All the names are on the Motocap website. I don't need to name names. All of the test results that are scientifically backed up by the way that we've captured those are all available on the Motocap website that you can go and troll through. I think there's over 1,200 jackets, pants, and gloves on the website now, and there's over 200 helmets and at least 100 pairs of armor that you can look through. So you can see how each product performs against each other, and so quickly start to have a look at what performs well and what doesn't perform well. And we're hoping in the very near future that we're going to put some of these products that were purchased on social media platforms and low-cost sellers, online low-cost sellers, they will go up as well. So we're just seeking permission to do that, but it's highly likely that they'll appear as well.
Okay. Great. So yeah, if you want to know who is exactly doing very poorly, the results speak for themselves. They're on the site. Xander asks, should armor be thrown out if it's washed accidentally?
You'll get away with one wash, but if it's been, I was talking to a husband and wife couple at a riding event not that long ago, and I spoke about laundering armor and how laundering armor is really bad. And
I didn't know that.
So you shouldn't wash armor, and the second armor breaks down because of hydrolyzation of the polyurethane. And so I was talking to this couple, well, I'd given a presentation, the couple come up to me and the wife said, see, I told you can't wash your armor. And he said, no, it's not that bad. Look, Chris will tell. And I said, actually, no, it's really bad. So she was right. He was wrong. So they were going to buy some new armor for him the next day. If we look at armor, and we've got a lot more data on it now, armor is made up predominantly of polyurethane. So even something like a D3O, which is a shear thickening material, is a shear thickening material that is within a polyurethane. Polyurethanes, the chemical structure of polyurethane breaks down with exposure to moisture, and it will, over time, will break down and will not absorb as much energy. We have some numbers that have just come back from Weiwei. So gear that has been worn for 100 days. And we had, do I have some of it had this D3O level 1 armor in it, and it had lost 20% of its energy absorption over 100 days of wearing. Now, the reason that it's losing that energy absorption is because of the moisture from the sweat from our body. Is the moisture levels between the inner layer of our clothing and the outer layer are higher than what they are out in the normal environment. And so that armor is being exposed to moisture every time we put our gear on. And so slowly over time, it slowly deteriorates. So Weiwei is now doing the testing of the 200-day gear, and we have some 150-day gear that's also going to go in. And we know it's not just this armor. We tested. I haven't got one that's in easy reach. Actually, I do. Just one second. People would love my office and my laboratory. There's just gear everywhere. It's generally not a very far reach. So if we look at something like this, is the other D3O armor that's in in the testing that we're doing for the aging. This particular one also dropped by 20% over that same wearing period. So what we say is, if you've got a favorite garment that you've worn a lot, taking the armor out and replacing it's a really good thing. If you wash it, you get away with one wash, but if you've washed it sort of 5 or 10 times, no, it's no good. You really need to be replacing that armor.
Okay. Make it wall decor instead. Okay. Athos Nate asked, no one makes good gear that's affordable for plus size rider. Is the cost so high that it's not affordable?
No, price is no indication of protection generally. So we've tested motorcycle protective pants, for instance, that are $200 protective pants that get 5 stars. There's price does not need to be the reason for low protection. It's then again talking to one of the smaller companies, because some of those will bespoke make clothing for plus sizes if you need to.
So just like reaching out to manufacturers and letting them know that there's a demand. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, no, some companies actually offer it as part of what they do. Please provide us with your sizes, and we can get something made to size. Now, it's an Australian company, so it's probably not as good for people all around the world. But there is a jeans manufacturer, or protective denim jeans manufacturer here in Australia called TKD, and they actually have a fitting service, so you can order a particular size and they will manufacture that garment to suit your body shape and size.
Oh, wow. They make it for you. Okay.
Yeah, and there's companies like this all around the world. So BKS is an example that I know of in the UK, that they do make to measure clothing, and then it's a matter of just seeing, is it a reputable brand? Are they making something that's reasonably good?
BKS clothing, that's one of the brands.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in the chat. Was there another one you said?
So TKD, if you're buying protective denim jeans, I think the TKD product's 3 stars.
Okay, TKD jeans. I see that too. Let's see if I can share my screen let's see if it'll let me do that.
So BKS isn't on the Motocap website. They're a UK brand, but I do know that they make to measure.
Okay.
And so there's a couple of companies like this around the world.
Okay, so BKS is one where you can request a size that's not available, and TKD is another. You can request size that isn't available, but there's more around the world. Those are just a couple. Okay, great. Next question. Has DCX Plant asked, has a manufacturer changed their product because of Motocap?
We have had small manufacturers that have come to us and sought advice that they have then gone on to improve products so that it gets a better score. We believe we've had some indirect effects on companies, but we can't prove it, because unless they tell us, we don't know. But an example was, there was a impact protector that when it come out, it was not achieving level 1 status. It was very close. It was borderline, but most of the time it was not achieving level 1 status. Now we had probably 2 or 3 people point out to us that it didn't achieve level 1 status, and we said, yes, that we realize it doesn't achieve level 1 status, but that's not something that we do. We're here just to provide advice to riders on where something sits in a performance level. If you're concerned, please contact that company and let the company know. And we refer everyone back to the company, because a rider's voice to the company can be very powerful. That product, because we've tested many of that product, it used to be performing like this, and you can actually see a date where the batch changes, and now it is now conforming to the certification levels that it was made to. Now, I like to think that that's come about because of our testing. I don't know if that particular company would have been doing product quality control testing and noticed it themselves. If they were, then they wouldn't have put that out in the market, I would have thought. So I like to think that because they had someone putting up results that showed that their performance wasn't that good, that they had improved their product because of that.
Okay. And Lee Cow Hunter asked, I have a question about silk base layers and base layers in general. I was looking at the Dianese dry base layers, but those do not contain silk. Is any base layer good, or is silk unbeaten? For, I'm assuming, for preventing skin shearing injuries, which is what I suggested in my video.
So what you're looking for is an intermediary layer between the protective clothing and your body. And so the way that a lot of places do that is with a Coolmax liner or a mesh liner of some sort that can be a little bit slippery, that gives you something against your skin that's going to slip against your skin rather than gripping up. So if you imagine, if you've got ordinary denim, the surface of ordinary denim is quite grippy. So if you push that into your skin, it's going to grip up and pull on your body. Where if you've got that denim onto a mesh liner, or a slippery fabric, it might grip up with that slippery fabric, but that slippery fabric then slides against your skin. You'll end up with a surface burn on your skin, but you won't end up with a deep tissue, or you're less likely to end up with a deep tissue injury like what Caroline had. The way that MotoGP riders have done in the early days, I'm not sure what they do now, but if you go back to the Wayne Rainey and Kevin Schwantz era, a lot of them would have worn a silk undergarment underneath their motorcycle clothing to provide that slippery layer. Now, silk was something that was readily available back in those days, and a good silk garment is very slippery. Bear in mind, there's slippery silk and there's non-slippery silk. So if you've got a traditional silk, it's quite shiny. But if you've got one where they've spun it using staple spinning technology, it might not be as shiny or as slippery. But it's having that slippery layer that gives you the ability for the clothing to slip and not grip up with your body.
And I know you all are wanted to do more testing or more research in skin shearing injuries, because there's very little data on that. So if you were looking for a specific link or silk or layer, sorry, we're not sure, but it's best guess. And I bought, like, when I talked with Chris and the other researchers about this, I just, since they don't have all this data yet, they don't have specific products or specific silk layers. So I just bought 100% silk base layers off Amazon. As we've been seeing, though, Amazon's not the greatest place for riding gear. But I was like, you know what? Better than nothing than doing nothing. And the pants I had when I had on when I crashed had a mesh layer for the armor, but I still got that injury. But now I've just added those thin silk layers. So I'll let you all know if I ever land on my knee again at 60 miles an hour, if I get the same injury or not. Hopefully I won't let you know.
So, and hopefully at some stage we will do a little bit of research into this. We've got a number of projects that we're doing at the moment. So Motocap is the motorcycle clothing assessment program that I'm the chief scientist for, but I also work for Deakin University, and I'm an associate professor in textile research, and I have a whole lot of researchers doing work for me, and Wei Kong is one of those, and she's doing a couple of studies. She's just done one on laundering. And so the laundering study is where I can tell you that you cannot wash armor. I think we washed about 10 different armor types, and every single one of them after washing decreased in their energy absorption. So we know that for a fact because we've done the physical work. We also washed a whole lot of riding jeans, ones that contained Kevlar, ones that contained Vectran, and ones that contained ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. And all three of those did not deteriorate significantly from washing. The Kevlar containing ones actually got higher in their protection levels after washing.
What?
And so the reason is that the fibers entangle a little bit within the structure, and that that improves the abrasion resistance. And so
All
what
Kevlar?
we had 4 different Kevlar products in the study that we did, and all 4 of them improved in their abrasion protection by about
Wow.
5 to 10%.
That's
So not massively, but they all improved, and that was with 20 cold washes following the instructions on the garment. So a cold wash, and then either hanging them out to dry, or laying them flat to dry. And then we washed some textile garments. And so with textile garments, we repeated washing, we started to see seam strength decreasing. And the reason for that is a lot of textile garments, there's a polyurethane coating that holds the fabric together. And so that would break down the same as what armor would over time. So the more it got wet, the more likely it would be to break that down. So eventually it was deteriorating. We also did hot wash and tumble dry. So we said, okay, this is your typical rider that doesn't really care, and they're just throwing them in the hot washing machine and then pulling them out and tumble drying them. That definitely caused a more rapid decrease in protection than if you followed the manufacturer's instructions and you cold washed and you laid them out flat, or you line dried them. One piece of advice we've got, if you are line drying protective motorcycle pants, a lot of them, the protective layer can be affected by sunlight. So what we recommend you to do is hang them by the ankles. If you're hanging them by the ankles, the sun and the denim is on the outside, the sunlight can't get into the protective liner and will keep them a lot better protected than if you hang them by the waist. Then the sun will go in through the top and could damage the protective liner around your bottom area.
Okay. So in summary, don't wash your armor. That degrades it by a lot. If you wash it like 5 or so times, just get rid of it. It can maybe get away with 1. And if you wash Kevlar lined jeans, you may actually be improving the Kevlar by a little bit. And
if you have Kevlar lined jeans and you haven't washed them, then you're probably not getting the full protection from them. It's as simple as that.
Wow. So wash your jeans. Wash your jeans, but not your armor.
So another piece of study that we're doing at the moment is the aging study. So that's how I can tell you that armor after 100 days is slowly reducing in its protection level. We've also done abrasion resistance. So in that study, we have a leather jacket, we have denim pants or Kevlar lined denim pants, and we have a textile jacket, textile pants, we have gloves, we have boots, we have helmets. So we're starting to get some preliminary data on that as well. And so yeah, as we do a study, we get more information. And most of our studies come about because riders say to me, Chris, what happens to my gear? When should I replace it? I know my helmet I probably should replace after 5 years, but when should I replace my gear? So that's why we're doing the aging study. The washing study come about because one of my friends is a rider trainer in New Zealand, and he was telling me how he had never washed his protective denim jeans because washing them would destroy them. And so that's the reason we did that study. I stir him up every time I see him about that, but he must have been the stinkiest rider trainer ever because he'd worn these jeans like 200 or 300 times and never washed them.
Gross.
So it's how do we get rid of the myths from motorcycle riding? So if you ever have a question, please let us know, because if we can try to help answer those questions with some true science, we try to do it.
Okay, and before I get to the next questions, do you have a hard stop in an hour or in 10 minutes? How's your time? How are you on time?
Let me have a quick look at my calendar. I've probably got another 15 to 20 minutes after that, and then I'm going to have to go.
Okay, I got, let's see, 8. I got 10 questions left and 15 minutes. So maybe we can do a rapid fire with you. Okay, so Rodrigo, thank you so much for the super chats. Let me get your questions next. In your opinion, what are the top motorcycle apparel brands worldwide? And what about impact protectors? Which ones are actually tested and proven?
So clothing brands, I won't name a particular brand. If you look on the Motocap website, there's brands that do really well, and there's brands that have product that does really well, but they also have product that doesn't do that well. And I'll use, again, Dainese as an example. Dainese, in the latest release of Motocap, one of the Dainese textile jackets went 5 stars. But that's their first textile jacket that they've ever had go 5 stars. A lot of their product performs a little bit lower. So I won't name a particular brand. The best is go on and have a look, because all the big brands are on there. Ixon, Revit, Alpine Stars, Dainese, Merlin, Oxford, all of these brands are all represented on the Motocap website.
Okay.
When it comes to armor, I will be a little bit more
D3O keeps winning.
open, because if you look at it, the orange armor is all at the top. There's one brand that has orange armor, and when we look at repeated measurements, we see them getting the same performance over and over and over and over again. I'm not paid in any way by any manufacturers. I make sure that I keep independent of anything like that. The only time I've ever done paid work finished in 2017, and the company that I was doing that work for has changed hands, and I have no knowledge of the current owners. So I remain impartial to motorcycle companies, but what I find and what we find from our test results is D3O armor is always up the top of the list.
I noticed that too. Okay. Now for these next questions, what do you think about me? Because I don't want anyone to miss you. So what do you think about me putting you on a timer, 1 minute, and keeping that up? Would that work? Okay. So the next question from Rodrigo, another example, auxiliary fuel containers like Rotopack, standard gear worldwide for remote rides. In Brazil, can't buy them locally, import only.
Not relevant.
Not sure what that means. Okay. So next question is, how does someone find out about the level of protection? I'm assuming that means not on Motocap, because you just go on Motocap, but I'm assuming that means like on a certain.
So if we look at it, there is a guide that was put out by Liz DeRome that's available on the internet, and I'm looking for one that's on my desk that should be around somewhere, called the Good Gear Guide. That is it's a little tiny booklet, or you can get a PDF version that tells you how to look for good gear. Liz and I are actually rewriting that document at the moment, so it hopefully will go live in the next 12 months or so. But that is a good way of being able to look at gear if it hasn't been rated by the Motocap website.
Okay, I found it. Let me put it in the chat. All right.
So Liz DeRome, who wrote the Good Gear Guide, originally worked on helping to put together the test protocols for Motocap. And if it wasn't for Liz DeRome, we really wouldn't have Motocap.
Wow, that's great. Okay, great. You did it. Now we do this next question. Does D3O, or just armor in general, I'm assuming, help with abrasion?
Armor definitely helps with abrasion for jackets, and it does for the knees and the hips areas of pants. But if we look at our risk when we crash, our elbow and our shoulder is where we slide, and that's where armor is. So that's our highest risk of sliding, is along this bit here. Our back is our second highest risk of sliding, and our front is our lowest risk of sliding. When we go to a pair of pants, the highest risk of sliding is the knees, the sides of the legs, and our buttocks. And so armor does not cover that full area. So in a jacket, definitely, if you've got armor in your jacket, if you've got a 2-star jacket, for instance, and it's got good armor in the elbows and shoulders, you're going to get a lot more protection than what that 2 stars would be in abrasion because of the armor. But in a pair of pants, you're not going to get that same level of protection, because if you look at the red and the yellow on the image that Doodle has up at the moment, you'll see that a large amount of that bottom area, the buttocks area and down the sides of the legs, is not covered by armor. Armor is only where you have that red. So This is why pants, armor's just not enough to give you that abrasion protection. You really need that abrasion protection from the garment itself. And this is why riding jeans tend to do far better than textile pants, because in a textile pant, you might only have a 600 denier layer between your buttocks and the road, where a good pair of protective riding jeans that have got a good protective liner there, you'll have that denim layer and then that good protective liner in that buttocks area and down the sides of the legs.
Okay.
And across the knees.
All right. Next question. I'm looking through some of armor and I'm not seeing back protectors. Are there plans to test them as well? I know you've got some good insight about that.
Motocap does not test back protectors as part of the program because there's very, very good evidence that shows that elbow, shoulders, knees, and hip impact protectors reduce your likelihood of injury by 72%. This is work that was done by Liz Jerome. Work done by Liz and also by Maids and the Hurt study show no benefit in back protectors in protecting against injury. And so as a result, they're not included currently in the Motocap program.
But it can help for abrasion, right?
I ride in one, and the reason that I ride in one is if you look at it, our elbow and our shoulders is our highest risk of abrasion in a jacket, but our second highest risk of abrasion is our back. So if you've only got a thin 600 denier liner between you and the road, that's going to wear through quite quickly. Where if you've got a piece of armor in your back, that's going to give you that added abrasion protection that the garment is not giving you. But also, there's that extra feeling that I've got that piece of armor there, that if I do end up landing on my back, it's going to give me some sort of protection. The reason we have a life-changing back injury in a motorcycle crash is typically because of when we're braking, we've got hold of that the handlebars in a crash really tightly, and we go off and we're all twisted up, and then our hip hits something solid and it causes our back to flex. And this is what will cause a life-changing injury. And unfortunately, a back protector won't have an effect on that. An airbag jacket that is stabilizing the core, however, may have an effect on that.
Okay, great. Next question, Molly. I've had textile recommended over leather gear as it supposedly resulted in lower sliding distance, therefore less likely to crash into road furniture and cause blunt trauma. Thoughts on that?
I hear this all of the time. This is one of those myths. So I can't wear an airbag jacket because it's going to cause me to bounce, and I'm going to bounce further down the road, and it's going to result in worse injuries than if I wasn't wearing the airbag jacket. Unfortunately, as human beings, we're very good at coming up with myths because we're not comfortable in something. So we create a myth that gives us a justification for why we shouldn't do it, and the result is we don't do it. I think that we haven't measured it, but I think you would find that the difference in the sliding resistance of a textile versus a sliding resistance of a leather might be 0.5 meter or 1 meter over the distance of a slide, and that's not really going to play into you sliding way further and running into something solid on the side of the road.
Okay. Someone told me my numbers are mirrored. There's a way for me to change that, but I'm not sure. So with the times crunch, sorry. Another question regarding armor T plus and T minus info. So the temperature readings, how cold, how hot it can go, for those who didn't know. It's often hard to find, but seems important to have when riding in winter, is it's only tended to work at RT. I'm guessing that means warm temperature. How important is it?
So armor's tested, and I'm sorry, I'm Australian and I only do degrees Celsius. I'm not very good at Fahrenheit.
We can
armor
Google it and convert on our own if we need to.
Armor is typically tested at 23 degrees Celsius. If it has a T negative symbol on it, it's been cooled to -10 degrees Celsius, and it's tested within 2 minutes of being taken out of the cooling device. If armor is tested at T positive, then it is tested at a higher temperature of 40 degrees Celsius, and exactly the same principle applies. You heat it up to that higher temperature, and then you take it out of the heating device, and it's got to be tested within 2 minutes of being removed from the heating device. I have spoken to some people, and the colder weather test is not as relevant as the hotter weather test. And the reason being is, in colder weather, your body is going to warm that armor to a certain extent. So unless you're riding it at, say, and I'm going to use Fahrenheit, unless you're riding under 32 degrees Fahrenheit, the likelihood of that armor cooling to a point where it's going to be really low in its energy absorption is going to be unlikely. Because if you're at 5 degrees Celsius, the actual armor is probably at 10 degrees Celsius because of body warming. On the other side of it, though, if you're riding in Arizona and it's 105 degree Fahrenheit, your armor is likely to be pretty close to that 105 degrees because it's being warmed both by your body and by the outside air temperature. So for me, I believe that the T positive is far more important to someone riding in hot conditions than the T negative is to someone riding in cold conditions.
Okay.
But if you are riding in the snow on a regular basis, or riding at minus at 30 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Fahrenheit, then yes, look for armor that has a T negative.
Okay, great. So just keep in mind when looking at temperature, your body warms up the armor, and how cold or how hot are you riding in temperature? Okay. And we've got 3 questions left. Worst case scenario, the last 2, I think I could answer if you had to go. Okay, James Sab, any recommendations for garment fit? Fit versus protection versus comfort will always be a compromise, and price.
So we come back to skin shear. Skin shear is most affected by fit. If you've got a tight fitting garment that holds the clothing against your body, when you're in a crash, it can't move and cause skin shear. So
That's
if
what
you
happened
look,
to me.
yep, denim jeans, they provide protection, but they also will slip and move in a crash because our clothing's not tight fitting when it comes to denim jeans. So most of them are loose, and they'll move around. The same with a hoodie or a Harley leather jacket, for instance, which is a more generous fit. They're going to move on the body. They'll give you abrasion protection. If the impact protectors don't move, they'll give you impact protection, but you're likely to come out with skin shear.
So ladies, we like tight pants. We think it's more flattering, but that can actually cause skin shearing.
No, tight pants are better than loose pants. So loose pants are more likely to skin shear, but
Okay, I take back what I said.
stretchy is also more likely to move around as well. So, which is the downfall of tight pants, as they tend to be stretchy.
Okay,
So fit's important, but it's not the end of everything. You're better to have a loose fitting garment on than no garment. But if you're going to be if you're very worried, then a tighter fitting garment that holds against the body so that the armor can't move out of its correct position, and the clothing can't move on the body, then that's going to reduce the chance of skin shear as well.
Okay. All right. 2 questions left. I just saw a third one come in. We'll see if you got time. Do you have any recommendations for adventure or dual sport riding where you need to balance abrasion protection for road sections and high ventilation for off-road?
Yes, it's always a difficult one because if you look at it, when you're out adventure riding, abrasion resistance almost disappears. Abrasion injury almost disappears unless you're riding in very rocky environment. When you hit the ground, you have a dirt road, or you have a grass or a dirt surface, and that's not going to cause abrasion. Impact is your highest risk when you're riding adventure. And so ventilation becomes important because we're generally riding slower and we're exerting more, and you get hot and sweaty. I know a week and a half ago, I was riding in the forest, and it was about 10 degrees Celsius. I was sweating my butt off. One of the things you can do is you can have a layering system. So I used a reference to a company earlier on, Adventure Spec. They actually have a removable abrasion resistant layer that you can put in underneath your jacket. So you can wear that to get out to where you're going to adventure ride. So on the the bitumen bits, the asphalt bits of the road. And once you get out to the dirt, you can take your jacket off, pull that abrasion resistant liner out, and put your jacket back on with it. It's really good venting.
Okay, great.
Look at that, on time.
Right on time. And Billy asked, you may just direct him to the website for this one. What is your process for testing these products?
Okay, so we do abrasion resistance using the Cambridge abrasion tester. It's a big belt sander. We drop the sample onto the belt sander and we measure how long it takes to form a hole through the sample. The belt sander is doing 8 meters a second, 28 kilometers an hour, and the sample weighs 5 kilograms and it drops 50 millimeters onto the belt. And so these are all important because they contribute to the what happens with that abrasion. And it's a 60 grit sandpaper belt that we're using. We do a burst test to measure the seam strength of the garment, how likely the garment is to pop open when you hit the ground. And that is using a hydraulic burst tester. And we're looking at applying high pressure to the seams and to the fabrics and zips and things like that. And then the last test we do is exactly the same test as they do for impact protectors, which is the European standard for impact protectors. And we measure how much force is transmitted through an impact protector. That is, look at Doodle's video because it shows you the test machine. It's a 1 meter drop of a 5 kilogram mandrel, and we're measuring 50 joules of energy being put through a piece of armor, and we're looking to see how much force is transmitted through. The lower the number, the better the armor.
Okay, great. We've got some more questions coming in. How are you on time?
Yeah, you've got another 10 minutes and you're right.
Okay, great. Flippin' Zippo asked, D30 means non-Newtonian, like every time? I don't understand that. Do you?
So the D30 armor is a product that has a non-Newtonian fluid in it. So a non-Newtonian fluid is a fluid that when you hit it, it goes hard. And so it is soft without stress, but when you apply a stress to it, it will go hard. So the process of that means that it will absorb energy going from a soft material to a hard material, but when it goes hard, it will also disperse that energy over a larger area. So D30 armor has a non-Newtonian fluid in it, but it is also made with polyurethane in it. So it's a mixture of the two.
Okay. Fat Aussie Worm asked, hey, fellow Melbourneian, just wanted to ask, are airbags worth getting for the street? There'll be tests soon on this summer.
There's some stuff coming up on these, hopefully in the near future. There is a lot of testing that's occurring at the moment on airbag jackets. They will reduce down the amount of, well, most of them will have an effect on reducing the energy that will go into a chest during a crash. So if we look at it, if you run into a vehicle, which is your highest risk when you're riding around an urban environment, you're likely to have compression of your chest area, and this can be a reason for a fatal or a high life-changing injury. An airbag jacket, most of the airbag jackets that are being tested will have some effect in reducing that injury. The thing that they won't change is if we have a higher speed impact into the side of a vehicle, we will typically go off like Superman. So our head will hit the vehicle first, and the neck compression that we will get from that will be the life-changing effect rather than a chest injury. And airbag jackets will have very little or no effect on stopping neck compression, which is either fatal or will be life-changing.
Okay. And Aries Mars Express asks, external armor versus armor embedded in the abrasion layer?
I'm yet to find a garment that has a certified armor that's fixed as part of the garment. You will find little tiny bits of hard armor on the outer surface of a garment, But these are generally only little tiny bits. I've never found one of those that covers the entire impact area or impact risk area of the garment. And so an example is a shoulder slider, where you've got a little hard bit of armor here. We're in the process of testing to see what effect they have on distributing load in an impact. But the problem that I have with them is that they don't cover enough of the high risk area. That high risk area was put together by a scientist by the name of Roderick Woods from the UK. He was at Cambridge University. He developed most of the testing that was followed by the original European standard, EN 13595. And he looked at people that had turned up at emergency, at where their injuries were and what their types of injuries were. And he developed that shoulder, elbow, knee, and hip template from that. And that work has then been collaborated on by multiple different scientists that show that that's where we hit. So if you've only got a little bit of armor there, you're not covering that entire risk area.
Okay. And 2 questions left. Phoenix Volunteer asked, what about the Nissin electric unicycles riders use?
So if you look, there's armor that covers just the knee, and I don't have any with me. Like knee armor, like there's lots and lots of different knee armor that you can get, different sizes, that covers the knee area. But there is a version that will go down longer, that goes all the way down to your shin, and this quite often is found in race suits. And if you look at it, it will actually have on its letters, instead of just having a K for knee, it will have a K plus L on that armor. And so if you look, your lower leg does have a risk of impact. It comes down to the level of risk that you're willing to accept when you ride a motorcycle. In most cases, if you're wearing a higher boot and you have a knee armor, you're going to cover off most of that area. But if you're wearing a lower boot, your armor might not go down as far as the top of the boot, and so you haven't got protection from that lower boot. And so a knee leg armor may be a better version than just a knee armor for you.
And Tom Meyer asked, this is the last question, is non-Newtonian armor really better than hard shell armor with a standard foam liner?
I'm yet to test a high performing hard shell armor. So, and if you look at it, and I had one there, that is a typical hard shell armor. It's a D30, sorry, not D30, a Dionysi one. You can see the label on it. That particular one is level 1. They do make a level 2 version, which is better. But if I hold up this D30 Ghost that I've got here, this has higher energy absorption than the level 2 version of this. And so this is relatively old technology. This foam at the back here is not going to absorb a great amount of energy. And the hard shell, all it is doing is distributing that force over a larger area. It's not actually absorbing the force. Where if we look at something like this particular armor here, which is a structural armor, it is the structure that's absorbing that energy. It's the non-Newtonian fluid that's absorbing that energy. And it's the crushing of the micro cells within the foam structure that is absorbing that energy. So there's multiple mechanisms that's doing that. We tend to gravitate towards hard armor because as human beings, armor is hard. It's not soft. And so we think that if it's hard, it's going to be more protective for us, but that's not always the case. And so if you look at all off-road armor, it's predominantly all hard because, again, if you have a soft version and a hard version on the shelf, as human beings, we're going to gravitate towards the hard because hard's more protective than soft. Even though we have no science to back that up, it's just our brain that's telling us that a suit of armor should be hard. I've also had some discussion with off-road riders that something like this is not going to be as protective as something like this because it will let sticks and rock through. they might have a valid point there. So that may be one benefit of a hard shell over an armor for off-road riding, to stop penetration of stuff coming through. But again, some science needs to be done on that, and we are starting to play with that, I can tell you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. All right, I did see another question come in. I don't know if it's a serious one, but I did see it come in as a super chat. Thank you, Airwayne, for that super chat. How are you on time?
Yeah, do it. I noticed the person that wants me just walked up to my office, so I'm going to have to go after this question, definitely.
Okay, it was kangaroo versus cowhide? Question mark.
I can't answer the question. I've been.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
There's a lot of information out there about it. I need to do a trial where we get the one leather tannery to make the kangaroo and the cowhide and the goat hide and so forth all in the same way, and then we can measure like for like, apples versus apples, rather than if you get some kangaroo and some cowhide, have they got a different tanning system? Are they different thicknesses and all that sort of stuff? So I need to do the study and take that out. The one bit I can say is that sheep hide is no good. So if it is a sheep skin or a sheep leather, it's no good. Goat leather is okay. Kangaroo leather is okay. Cow leather is okay, but sheep leather is well known. It's too thin and will not provide adequate abrasion resistance in the slide.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Chris. And everybody, I can stay on for a few minutes after Chris. Thank you again, Chris. That was so awesome.
More than welcome, and thank you, and really good to have so many good questions, and yeah, more than happy to do another one day, possibly after you do your textile one. More than happy to come back on again.
Great. I was thinking that would be great. Thank you, Chris. See you soon.
Beautiful. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, everybody. So I'm gonna stay on, and I saw some more questions come in. If I can answer them, I will. Let's see. So there was Tom Meyer asked, what about Dyneema? That I'm not sure about. We'll save that for Chris when he comes back. Airwayne, I guess that was a serious question. Kangaroo versus cowhide. Yeah, like y'all are asking all these questions that I didn't even think about. So I'm like, man, this is helping me too, having these live streams. So I'm so glad that he said that he's willing to come back, because I was thinking a lot of these questions are about armor, because we just had the armor video, but we still are going to talk about also textiles, and then we're going to talk about helmets again, because my last video just did not cover enough. And I also want to have him talk about gloves, and I don't think they've tested boots at Motocap yet, or if they're going, yeah, they have not. They don't have anything up anyways. But I know they are working on airbag vest tests, and that should be coming on this summer. Anonymous Biker, I do not wear an airbag vest. I have one and I never wear it. But I think when I do this more research, I will. Yeah, because just like a quick summary that they gave me when I was in the lab, just walking by it, they were saying it's huge how much it can help you. So yeah, I didn't know it, but I found out I am not wearing the best gear I could be wearing. And then someone I saw say, I lost the question, but someone said about the D30 armor, the new one is like stickier. So I've noticed that too. Hold on, let me grab my D30 armor that I have. I have a bunch of it. Okay, so not sponsored, but when I saw D30 on these, see, I got my box of armor here. When I saw D30 on the Motocap site again and again and again, just looking through all their armor, there was so much D30. So I emailed them and I asked them. Originally, I was thinking I would interview them, but I ended up not doing that. I didn't think that was necessary, but I was telling them, I was like, why are you all winning so much? Like y'all have just so much. Yeah. So anyway, so let me show you some stuff. So this is the newest D30. It's the Diablo armor. So they sent this to me and we tested it at Motocap when I was there, but it's not the Motocap way because they didn't buy it themselves. It was given to me by the manufacturer. But I can tell you that it did even better in testing this D30 Diablo, then the one that I found that does the best right now, which is D30 Ghost, which I just linked to in the description. Well, actually, this does even better than the Ghost. The Ghost are in my pants right now, so I can't show you that. But it's thin. The Ghost is thin like this. And I linked it. I'll link it again. But I wanted armor that was thin, that would fit across lots of armor, lots of gear, I mean. And this thin one that I'm sending you right now, that I just sent you, it still performed better than the gear I wore in when I crashed. So I know the armor I wore when the armor I wore when I crashed. The armor I wore when I crashed did well because my knee didn't break. So yeah, this does still performed a little better, but as Chris was saying, we think we need 5-star rating, but really we're okay. We don't. Like if we're just riding in town or if we're riding out on country roads, he was saying if we're riding in, just a summary up for everybody listening, if we're riding in town, 2 stars even is enough protection for us. If we're riding out on country roads where the pavement is harder or more jagged, 3 stars even is enough. But of course, if you're going to be racing and crashing at triple digits, then you might want to go even higher. And he talked about, y'all asked about back protectors. There are no back protectors on Motocap because they found that they didn't actually that wasn't actually, you know what, I'm forgetting exactly how he worded it, so I'm not going to butcher it right now and tell you, but that it is intentional. But even though they found that research-wise, maybe it didn't make that much of a difference. So maybe in that case, can we say that armor back protectors are useless? No, not if you just happen to land on your back the one wrong. So you can still wear back protectors, might as well, extra abrasion resistance if anything, but Chris still rides with abrasion with back protectors. And he didn't say it in this live stream, but he's told me before that he rides in Kevlar pants that are so thick that their abrasion resistance time is 11 seconds. And I don't know about average crashes. I've tried looking that up, but I can only tell you about mine. Like I slid for about 3 seconds. Yeah, if you slide and it's wet and it's raining, you're going to slide for a lot longer, but because the pavement's wet, it's not going to be tearing away at your fabric or worst case scenario skin if you're not wearing the right pants too much. Okay, so let me just see if there were any questions. How many videos are you planning to make about armor? Let Go Hunter. I wasn't planning on making any more videos about armor specifically. But you know what? I'll share with you my schedule, my video schedule. So the next thing I was doing, I wanted to talk about textiles. So riding pants, riding jeans, and in there, I'm just going to throw in, I think I'll just throw in like any information I have about gloves and boots too. So that'll be next month, actually. So that'll be the next video in this gear deep dive series. And then I want to do another video on helmets. I did one on helmets last fall, but I just, it was only with the MIPS factory, yeah, in the MIPS factory, and just not enough information. I hadn't learned about Motocap yet. So I want to do that video again because you all still had a lot of questions. And also I've just learned some more. And I want to share the independent research on a wide variety of helmets too. So that'll be out in August. And then as far as armor goes or anything else, I was also planning on, so those next 2 videos will be with the researchers, kind of like this armor video you guys saw. So and then it'd be great to have Chris back after the textiles video if you all have more questions then. And then the helmets video, so that's on helmets on Motocap. It's on Motocap, but they're partnered with another lab, and their lab is called Crash Lab. So that was in one of them's in Melbourne, one's in Sydney. I forget which, but So basically I went to both of those to visit both those labs. So it won't be Chris to talk about helmets. It'll be somebody else. But I'm going to ask him if he's willing to come on YouTube live too after that video comes out. So that'll probably be like late August. And those will be the last 2 videos on this gear deep dive series with the researchers. But I was also planning on doing my own, I'm not a scientist, but my own like non-scientific testing of this gear, and like just buying this kind of gear that we didn't know was fake and just legal to be purchased in US but does not fit European standards. Yeah, so that'll be, it won't be every video. I've got some people complaining that this is all I talk about now. I'm like, no, it's just what you're clicking on. We don't need to talk about trolls. But yeah, so it'll just be once every like 6 weeks, every 6 to 8 weeks or so, we'll talk about gear and all this information. Philip, hey, any more plans for some overseas bike rides? Yes. So when I went to Australia, obviously I rode when I was there. That's when I rented that 1972 Honda CB 750. Shout out Phil from Eagle Rider there. And now I'm like, you know what? I've got to make it a goal to ride on all 7 continents. I've got 2. I've got US and Australia. So I don't know if I can tell you yet, but I do have plans next month to ride in Europe. I'm not sure if I can tell you the details just yet, so I won't share that. And it's not official. My flight's not booked yet, but she is working on it. I sent her my passport info and everything. So yes, there are more plans for some rides and overseas. And let's see, I see another question. Is there anything in US similar to Motocap to cover gear available here? Junkyard diver, I wish. That is what is insane. So here in US, we're so bad about being on top of gear and what's safe. Like there's no regulations here on riding gear. So there isn't anything else I know of Motocap, but I did ask Chris before we went live, are there any other independent research test sites? And there is one, and that is, but it's for helmets specific only. And that's the UK government SHARP. I'm going to link to that right here. So I'm waiting for Jocelyn to do BDR with Jocelyn. So me too, Phoenix. I was actually just texting her like earlier this month about that. Yeah. So yes, I have a lot of things I want to do. Can I do it all? I don't know. We'll see. But so I just put the link to the other independent research tester, SHARP. It's just helmets though. So as I'm looking through these sites to compile the list for you all of the top items, the thing is that, like for instance, SHARP, a lot of their helmets listed on there, many of them had been discontinued. So I'm nixing that, but I'm also thinking like some of them are $1,000, but then there's some that's only 100 or 200, and they're ranking just as well as $1,000 one. So I'm gonna put together a few of them. And the tricky part is like when I mentioned to Chris, there was one helmet on there that's on Motocap, and I couldn't find it sold in US, but then I found that it has a different name for the US market. So I'm like, what is going on there? So I don't know about listing that for you guys, or maybe if I do, if I still send the list out just so you have it, just letting you know that there's that caveat, and I might not find that out until for another month or so. So check the pinned comment for Motocap, and sign up for, if you want to know when that list comes out, when I've compiled it, if you don't want to do all that digging yourself on Motocap and on SHARP, the UK government's independent testing. Just sign up for my emails, and I will send an email when I have this list together. I just started compiling it today, but I wanted to ask Chris some questions about the things that are going on there, which you saw me ask in real time. And I also want to find out what's going on with those helmets there. Yeah, so still got some questions. You're mentioned, please don't come to the Netherlands because the gas prices are effed up here. But regardless, you're welcome here. Okay, thank you for the warning. Well, thank you all I'm so excited. So many of you came and asked questions because you all, is there anything in the US? Oh, I just answered that. And asked these questions because y'all asked so many questions that I didn't even think about myself. So yeah, I'm so glad that we did this. Definitely need to do this more. Tam Bam Bam, do you think wearing a balaclava would offer similar benefits to a helmet with MIPS? Tam Bam Bam, unsure because I don't think that's been tested. And I'm not an expert enough, but hopefully I will be in a couple months. The more deep diving I do in this helmets, like I filmed the video, but it's like I don't retain the information. It's like I have to like watch it again and then write up the points I want to talk to you guys and then film it, and then that's when I feel like I'm learning, and then I see it again and again. Yeah, that was the whole thing. Okay, so let me just make sure I didn't miss any more of your questions before I let y'all go. Okay, I think I got all your questions. Thank you all for coming and asking your awesome questions. We are gonna wrap it up now, and I'll probably see you in a couple months after the textiles video. We'll have Chris come back on. He said he would do it, and you can ask more questions. Thank you for your older Tiger 660 review. Just bought one. Awesome, JM Sab. I'm so excited for you. We'll doodle have a ride with Go Roughly K9 motorcycle cockpit. Go Roughly. I think you must have told me about them before because I think I haven't thought about it, but that would be awesome. I mean, I love dogs and riders, so that's great. Anonymous, hey Anonymous. Best helmets will have a MIPS type tech already. Aries Mar Express, not necessarily. Though when I went to the crash labs, they did say that a lot of helmets, when they tested MIPS versus non-MIPS, and this is the independent research testing, what they found was that they'd found that at least in the oblique testing, the MIPS helmets adding MIPS in the same helmet did do better. But just because a helmet has MIPS in it doesn't mean that it's better than a helmet that doesn't have it. Because other companies may be doing their own thing, their own method of addressing oblique impacts. So we'll get more into that in the helmet video. That will probably be in August, mid to late August. Toodles. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.